Can I just, before you get going, I want to just say something else which we were just talking about off microphone about Bob Marley.
Yes.
Out of the time I was in that dressing room, I'd probably got about 2 minutes with Bob.
Right.
And he was more interested about me as a person, where I was from, my mum, my dad, and proper. He wasn't this megastar talking to me. He was a human being. And that's the one thing I took away from that interview. Just the man was proper.
And that is right, because my two friends had wagged it from school, and they went to the Odeon where Bob Marley was playing, the Odeon New Street, and he gave them free tickets to go to the concert. So, and he said, "Una you man, una for know things. Them tonight me I gotta tell you about things. Me I gotta talk things." And that's how he behaved to them. I went back to school. They wagged it. Anyway, so we're moving on. We've come to BRMB. We've talked about some of the artists that you've met, worked with, Barrington Levy, Annette B, Bob Marley, to name a few.
Can I just, sorry, Grantley, there's one guy we interviewed, e-commerce.
Go on, tell me about e-commerce.
E-commerce. We used to get people writing with questions, and this one question came from a young lady who lived in Aston, and the question was, e-commerce, how tall are you? And he went, 6'6" above sea level.
That was e-commerce.
Cracked us up. Isaacs was one of the best, so. Gregory, yeah. The first thing that come out of his mouth, because it's not long after the incident in Jamaica, he just went, "Not guilty." That's all he said. Everything just stopped at, "Well, not guilty."
Right.
And he, you can ask any other
The
question
cool
now, but
ruler.
yeah, man, just don't go there. Yeah.
And he was one of those guys that you didn't bother to ask the same question twice.
Could I just play you something about Gregory?
Yeah. We want to hear these things.
I did Tony Bing.
Well, we're going to come to Tony Bing.
Can I do it now, or
We'll go for it.
okay? We Tony asked me to do a couple of functions for him, and the first one was at the Porsche Club, Small Heath, Birmingham, and I hadn't done a reggae dance for a few years, and he asked me to come on and do a Reggaetivity cutback. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And I always used to open up with Errol Dunkley, every way just a little way different, because I used to do my thing differently, a reggae show with a disco-style format. And as soon as I come out on stage, and I didn't know this at the time, so I respected the lady for what she did, but she run up on stage and she lit a lighter in my face.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know what was going on, so I went...
He blew it out.
Well, and she just looks at me and went, rascal.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know. And all of a sudden, it was like a star cloth in the room. All the other lighters started. And the guy who was with me, Scabsy, he turned around and said, "It's respect, man, it's respect." I said, "Oh, really? Oh, yeah." And now I'm shaking. Okay, so played the song. Alan, pull up, Alan. So I stopped the song, and I picked that stylus, and my hand was doing that to put it back on the arm and rest it there. Okay, but that was one experience. The next experience was when I think it was a week after Gregory had died.
Yeah.
And we were at the function suite on Moseley Road, which was half a mile from my father's restaurant. And it was rammed. Captain Boogie was on. Okay.
Mr. Hansworth.
Yeah, man. Yeah, his son and my daughters used to swim together as well.
Yeah.
Talk about going back to your roots.
And what a dancer.
Oh, well, he was doing all these kung fu kicks and stuff out in the front of the stage. So I've got this unit, and I walked up on stage, and I knew I was going to play some songs. And Captain Boogie started to introduce me, and the banging was going on. The bottles were banging. And I thought, what's going on here? And I looked round to see if somebody else had walked up on stage. And it was rammed. Preamp had put the sound system in. It was buzzing. And I looked around, there's nobody else but me. And Captain Boogie says, okay, it's for you. I said, wow. So, being a showman that I am, I went to play the first song, and I had the microphone to my mouth, and I just dropped it. The whole room went crazy. And I just stood there, and I looked, and I thought, you can't buy this. As an entertainer, you cannot buy this. So I went, and I dropped it again. We went crazy. So I just said, a lot of people ask, who is KKJ? Is he a Coolie man? Is he an African man? Is he an Italian man? Is he a Spanish man? Let me tell you this. Musically, if you cut me in half, I'm a black man. Place just went bananas, you know.
Right.
Bananas. I said, listen, my father's restaurant was half a mile up the road from where we are. And this is the mix. I found the mix which I started with. I said, we're a week away from the death of the cool ruler, Gregory Isaacs. And this is the mix I played with the rewind in the middle, right? Five times I pulled it. 5 times.
Top 10.
Warren, when you pull it, you stop the record and you start it again.
Wheel.
Had to be this song to start with, but this happened.
Rumours.
It just, that is exactly how I did it, and it just mashed up the dance floor. Boogie turned around, he said, "Kay, stop, man, stop, you're killing us, you're killing us." But that was Tony Bing, that was Gregory Isaacs, you know. Sorry, man, I just ran away with it.
No, it's your show, really. Okay, so before the Brasshouse, Des Mitchell and KKJ had a couple of standoffs. Tell me about those.
You really want to go there? Tony Bing was Des Mitchell's manager.
Yes.
Are you on about the Mr. Moons?
I'm on about whatever you want to talk about.
Des became a very good friend after because Des Mitchell was on BBC WM,
yes,
doing a reggae show. I was on BRMB, and we were playing at a place called Mr. Moons in Birmingham, and we took a system in there. Tony Bing walked in. He says, "You can't put any speakers there. I could get 30 people there." I said, "Okay." So we moved the speakers and put them somewhere else. We know the sound weren't going to be right. And the guy who was doing, Dave Keane, who was doing Des Mitchell's PA, which is the ASA rig, brought it in and put 15 speakers where we just moved ours from. We thought, up, we know where this is going. Because this is a clash against 2 big radio DJs.
Yeah.
Place was rammed. And he got a nice set. But I learned a long time ago from somebody called Jackie Stewart, the racing driver. Lucky enough to read what he was saying, that if you're going to talk in public, make sure you choose the PA yourself. Don't let anybody tell you it's the best PA, because you're the one that's going to look second best if it's rubbish. Choose the PA yourself. So when you want to be heard, he said, that's number 1. He said, number 2, when you want to be heard, go to all the places you want to be heard in the auditorium. Because people will say, I couldn't hear a word you were saying. But they'll never say, I heard every word you said. It's a silent asset. He said, that's number 2.
Right.
He said, number 3, most importantly, get the first 2 right. Never forgotten it. So when we put a system in play, we knew what we were going to do, what system we were going to use. Des was more powerful on the night with his PA system. The art of making somebody forget about what they just heard was leave a gap. So when Des played a song and he finished, we were supposed to come on for half an hour. So all we did was play jingles at a very low volume. So when we come on with our system, people were fresh to it. It's a talent.
Strategy.
Absolutely, plan. But unfortunately, on that night, something happened that Des had said, and lost the dance. He, when he sees this, I hope he'll forgive me saying it, but it did happen, and he learnt from it. And as I said, we've become friends ever since. We were winning the night.
Yeah.
You know, when sound systems clash, you get your audience. We were winning the night. So he comes back on and he said, KK, switch off your system, man, because I'm a black man, you see, and only black man can play reggae music. So I shouted across, Roddy Gun! All his posse come and stood by us. And I remember when we were taking the equipment out, he was sitting on the floor with his head in his hands. And I said, Des, we've learned something from tonight, haven't we? You know. But bless him, that was competition talking. Okay.
Yes.
So he's doing well abroad now. Bless him. He does a good radio show. He's great on dance music.
Yeah.
Really big on dance music.
Definitely. So we come to Tobascos, which you haven't mentioned.
Okay.
So tell me about Mr. Verley.
Oh. It was in a house. Tobascos was a house opposite Villa Park.
Yeah.
Okay. And Verley come to the station, the BRMB. We just finished Reggaetivity one Sunday night. And he said, KK, I want you to come and play at my club. I thought, okay, yeah, I'll come down. Where are you? He said, opposite Villa Park. Now I'm thinking nightclub. Gets to this house. All right. I thought, where's the nightclub? He said, come in. We'll go upstairs. And it was like this. Not too much bigger than Tara Song. Okay. And there was a downstairs and upstairs. I thought, yeah, okay. You've got a system. He said, yeah, we have. I said, I ain't playing off that. We used to take a system in there. Yeah. And my road crew, when I took them down to show them the room, they went, oh, stairs. You got to carry all these boxes upstairs. Yeah. Oh, man, I tell you. Anyway, we put a system in there. And I had these guys on the road show. Not the Beacon Radio road show. I will talk about those another time. But the guys who were on the Reggae road show. Scab, Stephen, Patrick, Mark, the MC. Stephen was... Well, he could lift everything, but he couldn't add up. Right. Okay. He was muscular, right? Yeah. He was solid. I said to him one night, don't let anybody through this hole here, okay? Because this is my space. So Verley comes up to come and speak to me about something he wanted to say. And Stephen said, where are you going? I said, I want to speak to Kate. No, man, no one come through here. I said, oh, it's my club. I said, not a club, a house. I said, back off, man. And so I turned around as he was pushing. I said, that's the owner. You can't speak to him like that. So Verley come up. He says, what was it, Verley? He says, I just wanted to stand here and look out and see what you do. And his son, VJ, used to play there as well. Yeah. He used to play there, VJ. And he used to do the warm-up. And we used to go on and tell you what, Tobascos, we rammed every Saturday night we played there. And, there was some great times. And sometimes I'd come straight from Reggaetivity, do some cutting Reggaetivity, and straight on stage. And it was hot. The music, it was all vinyl. It's all vinyl. And, you know, you could do a 2-hour set. You could play 15 songs because you just kept pulling them up, flipping them over, play a version. You know, there's different cuts. But,
that's a really good point that you've made, because what I want to talk about or ask you is, how do you find music today? You got vinyl back in the day, and there's techniques to playing multiple vinyl tunes like you've just talked about. What were the challenges back then that are not present today, and what do you find is missing or might be missing today that was there back then?
I'll answer the first part now. Back then, there was no digital help. You had to do it on a turntable or two. There was no taping. So whatever you did was live. So you had 2 records, okay? Mixing DJs, it's an art, where they mix one song to another, a beat per minute, and it crosses over. Nowadays, you've got technical equipment which can do it for you. You stand there and look good, because it's all technical. But back in the day when I was playing vinyl, you've got 2 songs and you wanted to mix it together. The first thing you would try and understand is the beats per minute. How many beats per minute are in a song? You can't just drop a song that's got 104 beats per minute down to a song that's got 70 or to a song that's got 143, because it's like doing that. And the audience will feel it. So I'll put myself in their position by saying, how am I going to mix these 2 songs together? Because I've got to do it right. And this is before the days you could slow things down and speed things up. Or put your finger on it to slow it down. You slow it down with your finger, physically slow it down. So you think, find songs that go together and take your audience on a journey. So you lead them. They don't lead you, you lead them. And you always got to be 3 songs ahead of the dance floor. Always. Have something in reserve. If it's not working, you know where you can go and go. I do a lot of gigs over at the Kingshurst. There's 2 ladies there from the Kingshurst in Solihull. And it's a 4-hour set, and it's just me that's on, okay? So it's Motown, it's soul, it's reggae, it's R&B, it's old school. And it's a great audience because of the people who appreciate the music. But because you've got all that music in one night from one guy, playing different concepts, but you got to say, that's what I'm going to play with the Motown, that's I'm going to play the Drifters and Arthur Connolly and the Luther Vandross and the Jocelyn Brown and the Fatback Band and the Cheryl Lynn's and all them. You've got to take your audience on a journey. So that's how you put your music mix together. Today, I think DJs today are more technical operators, more computer-like driven, the ability of what you can do, especially with the internet and the social media and the gadgets you can get now. The manufacturers will bring out a thing where it's not, as I would call it, old school DJing. It's more of a technical art where people will mix something together. You've got a lot of people who are DJs that's actually mixing songs, and DJs as well as record producers. So I think there's room for everybody. I think there's room for that, but there's also room for the old school. And I don't think we'll ever get away from the old school, because you've only got to look at the numbers of what we do at the Kingshurst, and people come. You put an old school, Pop probably major, when he does 4 DJs, a box of records, the old school stuff that they play, you think, rammed, because people want to listen to the old school.
Brilliant. Great answer. I want to bring you now to a speciality thing, what I think DJs do, some DJs do, is break artists. What we in the reggae business say, that DJ, they bust that artist. So, tell me about the relationship between some of the artists that you played continuously till people got to know them, if any.
Yeah, started at Beacon. There was a couple of guys, a couple of ladies, a couple of bands, which the music was good, but it wasn't brilliant, to be brutally honest with you. But you could find a place to fit it, because these were local people who needed a break. And all they needed was one person to play it. Back to the days of the GSDP. The GSDP, I should have finished off with Pat Martin, guaranteed saturation disco play. What we'd do, there'd be 30 DJs in Birmingham, and we would all meet on a Saturday night at 3 o'clock for a curry. And Pat Martin would say, right, at 10:30 and at 1 o'clock, we are all going to play the same song. So the audiences in Birmingham would come out singing that song. Jesse Green, Nice and Slow, was the first one. We helped promote and put that song in the chart. And we got loads of records from EMI for doing it. That was a great success. So when you think to yourself, okay, I'm never going to forget that. So when I went to BRMB and started Reggaetivity, Bashara was probably one of the biggest ones.
Right.
Men Cry Too. came to the studio. Kay, would you put this on? Yeah, of course. You know, and I used to have a slot called a local talent slot, and I used to promote artists from Birmingham or the Midlands and give them that slot. And I said, I'll cut a deal with you. Yeah, I'll play your song for the next 3 weeks, but you've got to do me a jingle. And that's all I wanted. That's the only payment I wanted. And I still get messages from people from Pershore saying thank you, you know.
Super. I'm coming down to my last few questions. And one of the ones towards the final end of this is, what do you consider your greatest gift as a DJ to the music industry?
Time. I said earlier that I'm 70 years old. Started when I was 1972, 73. So that's 75% of my life has been given to music, promoting the songs and the music that I love, because it was a love. I still got the love and the passion. But I've got a lot from it. I've got a lot of enjoyment. I've met some great people, still meet some great people. Go back to the days of Pollyannas, where I still keep in touch with some of my old friends from Pollyannas. Sissy Stone, who should have been here tonight. Last time I was in this room, Tara Song, she was promoting her album. She was a big soul artist in the 70s. Got a great Northern Soul song called Gone But Not Forgotten. She'd run it, great tune, Decca Records. Des Tong should have been here tonight, and other people that I've actually kept in touch or got in touch with since back in the day because of social media. So I've got a lot out of it. I put a lot into it, and I got a lot out of it. But the biggest accolade, I think, I would put my finger on from what I've got out of it was meeting Prince Charles.
Right. Okay.
I met Prince Charles in '79. There was a program on the BBC called Look Here with Toya Wilcox. And I won what they call the Midlands Voice of the Year competition.
Right.
People had to write in to vote for their favourite DJ. Les Ross came second. He had got about 32,000 votes. We topped it with 182,000 votes. It was brilliant, you know. That was in the heyday of Beacon. And we had to do 4 charity shows a year. You had to choose a charity to do a charity show. So I chose the Guide Dogs of Great Britain. I used to like dogs, so natural choice. And we raised quite a lot of money for the Guide Dogs of Great Britain. And as an invite came from Buckingham Palace to meet Prince Charles, I thought, what a wind-up. I'll put it on Facebook now. I'll put my name out, and everybody's going to know my name now. I'll put a picture of it up on Facebook. And I thought it was a wind-up. So there's a guy who used to work at Beacon. His father was worked for the Home Office. He actually qualified it. It is proper. So we had to go down to Buckingham Palace and meet Prince Charles at a dance, banquet and dance. So I thought, oh, you asked me about a car earlier. I had a Beacon radio car, a KKJ car by Tony Billingham of Billingham's in Wolverhampton. It's a Ford dealership, and it got my name all over it. I didn't realise that he was a royalist, so I told him about it. He said, you're going in a chauffeur-driven limo. Really? So we'll put a chauffeur on for you. So we had a flag made, Express and Star. The Prince is going to meet the King of Music. That's what they labelled it up as. So I went down to Buckingham Palace in this chauffeur-driven limo. The only thing that the guards do when you go through the archway is they just look at you. So I'm in, he was some rock stars. I drove in, and I walked in. I was good friends with Cyril Regis, because we always ended up at the same charity shows. I was on Beacon, he played for the Albion, Ron Atkinson, Laurie Cunningham, Brendan Batson, always used to end up together. And Cyril was in the room. I didn't know he was going to be there. So I walked up to him. I said, Cyril, yeah, what are you doing? Oh, it's nice, isn't it? Yeah, all smartly dressed up. And Prince Charles, who's now the king, obviously, his equerry comes up and says, His Majesty's in the room. There's no royal announcement. And he will come up to you and he will put his hand out first. You don't put your hand out first. You wait for His Majesty to put his hand out. I said, okay. And you must address His Majesty with whatever is on your invite. It's either going to be Sir, Your Royal Highness, or Your Majesty. I looked at Cyril. Cyril looked at me and I thought, what the bloody hell was on mine? At home. I'd only got the ticket. So I'm looking at Cyril, and next thing, Prince Charles is standing there. The first thing I thought, he's not very tall. That's the first silly thing like that. And I'm looking at him. He's talking to Cyril about what's going on at the Albion. And I'm thinking, not only he's not very tall, I can't remember what was on my invite. And he turned around to me, he went, "It's Your Majesty." And carried on talking to Cyril. Oh, how the hell, right? This man had a question for everybody, and there was 200 people in this room. Talk about a great PR guy. He had a question for everybody. So at that time, Beacon Radio were in trouble with the IBA, the Independent Broadcasting Authority, because what they were doing with the flamboyant Americans and Canadians is they were tweaking the signal. And you only had 50 watts, and Beacon was going out on 300 watts. You could hear us in London. You could hear us up in Manchester, crashing into the local radio stations.
Yeah.
So the IBA, government-owned, had warned Beacon Radio with a public warning. You're on a public warning here. So as Prince Charles is talking to Cyril about the Albion, he looked at me and he went, KKJ from Beacon Radio. In a spot of bother with the IBA, aren't we?
You didn't know how to answer that.
I did. I said, I hear you're into the 3 degrees. The only thing I could think about. And he pulled me to one side and he says, I do like that Sheila Ferguson. I said, she's good. She is good. I must do you a cassette, but you'll never get it. He said, I will. Oh, I've now committed myself. I need to do a cassette of the 3 degrees music. So, and I did. I sent it off and I got a letter at home. That's 6 weeks afterwards, thanking him. Whether he signed it or not doesn't matter. You know, it was from him. And yeah.
There's the story. My last question is, I want you to bring this all together. The Brasshouse and ending your career at that point. And what would you say to young DJs trying to break through today?
If they would listen, which is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Be yourself and do it differently. Because that's exactly what I was led to believe myself, you know. When my brother Steve said to me, you sound different, when I was doing my Roscoe impersonations back in the 70s. That meant something because it went in for my older brother. Money, my late brother Money, was a drummer he was disabled, and he was a drummer in a band. He was a brilliant drummer, absolutely brilliant drummer. And we were into different genres of music. He was into rock music, and they used to do Indian music to the Bhangra films and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was in a couple of brilliant bands. And we always used to talk about showmanship. And he once said to me, he says, the thing about you and what you do and what's different to Steve and probably other DJs as well is you do your thing differently. I says, what do you mean? He says, your stage presence, you have stage presence. I said, okay. And I'll tell you where I got that from. Rod Stewart.
Right.
I went to see Rod Stewart at the NEC. And when the curtains opened, everything on stage was white. Everybody was dancing around, and it was a great show. And I thought, if I ever built a road show, that's what I'm going to do. So when I was on Beacon, and I wanted to do my thing differently, everybody would be dressed in white. Everybody on stage were playing instruments. If you couldn't play an instrument, you weren't in the road crew. So we were like a band, okay? I used to play instruments at school, so I had half a set of drums, which I got off money. He used to give me half of all his drums, so I'd be playing drums on stage. Again, turn the music down, it sounded like a car crash, but like I was playing his drum, and it looked spectacular. We saw videos of it, and it did look spectacular. So that's what we were doing. We're doing it differently. So if I was to give any advice to a DJ who's starting today, because you could get 2 phones and you could be a DJ.
Yeah.
Easy. But you've got to do it differently to be recognised, you know.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. KKJ, thank you ever so much for coming on Laidback But Serious with Grantley Haynes, and I want you to finish off your night in your style with your set for about 15, 20 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can I just say to this guy here, we go back, call the yardies, we go back to the old Borsal Heath days, and when I read his book, which is a great read, I couldn't believe how close we were without actually connecting until the Reggaetivity days.
Yeah.
You know. But just wanted to say something about the Brasshouse, okay? A lot of my career was 27 years at the Brasshouse. And I met some great people. Angie Nelson, she came in and she said, I want you to DJ at my club. And that was Raison d'Etre in Solihull. That's where I went over there. But 27 years with Clive and Angela at the Brasshouse, and Matthew and Peter, Richie, the family used to run it. How I came to be a DJ at the Brasshouse, did a gig at Yorkies and the Cagney's in Birmingham, and was walking past the door up Broad Street. I think we were going for a Burger King or something.
Yeah.
This is when clubs used to finish at 11 o'clock. Okay. I saw Stuart on the door, big Stuart. I think my brother used to play football with him. And say, Stu, say, hey, Kay, coming in. So what are you doing? So I'm just walking past him. And Clive, the owner, was standing on the door. He said, you're DJ, aren't you? I said, yeah, I am. He says, oh, come work for me then. And that's how I started at the Brasshouse. The reason I left the Brasshouse was 2019, January. I got a letter from the government pensions.
Yeah.
My pension was going to start in August of that year. My Michelin pension, my private pension, was also going to start in August. Now, because I'm working and it's all going through the books, the taxman was going to take half of it. So I thought, I've done too much now to let the taxman have it. I've got to leave. But I didn't tell anybody. And in the February, I'm struggling with this decision. After 27 years, I'm going to leave the Brasshouse. You know, I've made the place. And I thought, all this music, everything that's gone on, I'm struggling with this. I don't really want to leave. But town was changing. Town was becoming more ugly. And youth was coming in, and the attitude was changing. Door crew had changed. And things were happening which I weren't too impressed with. I remember one night, there was these two ladies standing in front of me, got a bottle of Prosecco, put it down on the table, and some youths were in there, troubling them. They turned around and they said, Kay, we love you. We love this place. We love the music you play, but we're not having this. And they walked out. And the quality of audience was going out the door. And I thought, you know when you hear the sound, the ship is sinking?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, have I made the right decision? That started to justify my decision about what I'd made. So in the August, I think I was talking to TC about you make an announcement, you're going to leave somewhere, and you're out the door before you finish saying it. You're done. So I didn't tell the management I was going to leave the Brasshouse till August 2019. And went upstairs, sat down with him. He says, what do you mean you're leaving? You can't leave. You're part of the establishment. Didn't accept it until I told him why and the financials and why I was leaving. And I told him the truth. I said, I think the club's sinking because of the door crew and who you're letting in here. The quality people will come in, see what's going on, and they're done. Music is not strong enough to hold them, you know. So he respected the decision. He said, okay. So 3 weeks later, we had a big time. You were there, were you, TC? We had a great night, fantastic. All the people that used to come before came back just for one last drink and hear the music again. But they didn't come up to the Brasshouse on a regular basis. And I left and went on holiday, had a couple of weeks off. I'd done some radio work for WCRFM, which in my book is the old Beacon. And I thought, I'm going to do a bit more radio. Lo and behold, nobody knew what was going to happen 6 months after that. Lockdown. COVID. Somebody once said to me, Kay, your timing was impeccable. Don't blame me. But what happened out of lockdown was WSM and the KKJ Friday Night Vibe was born. And I remember the first night we had, it was on Facebook before WCRFM took it on. 22 hits, 28 hits of people listening to it, you know. They've done JICRA surveys on Friday nights now, and it's in thousands, and it goes all over the world. There's the station in New York that take it, Retro Sound, they take it because there's people who've come from Birmingham, Midlands, living in America, family connections. And it's just great because playing all the music I used to play at the Brasshouse, on BRMB, on Beacon, and I'm thinking, you know what? I've earned my stripes. This is what I want to do. So it's an hour on a Friday night by WCRFM. Live across the world online as well. So, and that's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kris Kennedy Jr, KKJ.
Thank you.
Thank you. The deck's are yours.
All right, okay.
And we're going to draw the raffle right now. So, I want 2 people